Hello, welcome back to another video. Last week, I finally finished a sketchbook I started 8 years ago, and I want to share the process for the final page, compare old versus new pages, and give some tips for finishing old sketchbooks. Let's get started. For this page, I decided to do some warm-up portrait drawing from reference. Lately, I've been sketching with pen and marker instead of pencil. I'm using the Tombow dual brush marker in pale pink 800 and a Beyond Styles Xeno 0.38mm pen, and occasionally a white Gellyroll gel pen. This first sketch is in real time, but the rest of the footage will be sped up so that you can see the whole process as I talk. Now that all the technical stuff is out of the way, I want to talk about why I'm drawing with marker and pen. In many of my other videos, I don't film these warm-up sessions and the line drawing all together, but this is actually one of the most important steps in my process. To me, line drawing, even in painted and mixed media studies, is the foundation to a piece. If my foundation has issues, the rest of the piece will have problems no matter how many colors or details I include. It's a bit like constructing a house. If your foundation isn't level, it doesn't really matter what color the curtains are, things will still feel wrong. Since the drawing is important, I like to warm up practicing this skill. But why use pen? In previous pages, I used graphite pencil, but that smudged even with a fixative sprayed on top. I like the fact that pen doesn't smudge, doesn't collect on your palm and fingers, and keeps a deep value without pushing too hard. That's the primary reason, but I also like sketching in pen to improve line quality and confidence. Not being able to erase means I have to be more deliberate with my strokes. I can't zone out. Instead, I have to place every mark with intention and think about what marks are necessary to capture form and which I can leave out. This is a skill I greatly admire in other artists, and something I still consider a personal weakness. Of course, things you aren't good at don't have to stay that way forever. I started sketching in pen last summer, in a mammal sketchbook, and since then, I've continued this practice and have seen some improvement. I still have a long way to go, but this practice has definitely been helping me. One example of my overall artistic improvement is the difference between these final few pages compared to one of my first pages. These are all drawn using reference, but how I handle line, form, and my understanding of 3D space has greatly improved. I'll show a side-by-side at the end of the video, but even just comparing one portrait to another, you can see the differences. It's nice to look back and see how much you've grown as an artist. Sometimes we can get stuck in our own heads. I struggled with last week's study, and I can often become overly self-critical. Looking back at old work is a fast way to get out of a negative headspace. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to finish the sketchbook. Between 2015 and this year, I didn't touch the sketchbook much beyond the occasional doodle. So what changed? Well, for one, I was curious to see how much I have improved, like I just mentioned, and capturing that in one place sounded appealing. The other reason is that I've been on a traditional media kick lately because of all of these studies. I fell in love with pencils, pens, and markers as soon as I could hold them as a kid. These last couple of years, since I've taken art seriously as a career, I've been working primarily digitally. Sketching traditionally feels like coming home after being away for a long time. It's comforting, familiar, and tactile in a way digital art doesn't quite replicate. Now, don't get me wrong, I love digital art too, but it's been great to get reacquainted with paper and pen. The last thing that changed between 2015 and 2023 is the aforementioned mammal sketchbook. This is a project I started and finished last year, and was the first sketchbook in years I completely filled up. Doing this made me hungry for more sketchbooks, but I still had some unfinished ones on my shelves. This is one of the oldest, so I made a note to finish this one next. There's a kind of euphoria that comes from finishing a physical sketchbook that I don't find anywhere else. Now that this one is finally done, I can move on to the next, which is a mixed media sketchbook. This opens up some fun possibilities for experimentation and studies in one place, instead of on loose sheets of watercolor paper. I hope you'll stick around for videos about that in the near future. Anyway, here's the finished page. Altogether, these 8 portraits took roughly 50 minutes in real time. You can see my line confidence growing as I finish each study, and by the end, I was ready to tackle my actual work for the day. Let's look at the promised side-by-sides. Here's that page I showed earlier compared to my last page. You can see how long I spent searching for the right shapes on the left compared to the right. I'm trying to capture form, but some parts still fall flat because of a lack of understanding of anatomy. This holds true for other subjects like animals. I was using different techniques for these sketches as part of a school assignment, but I can still see the differences. I'm happy that these are all in one place. It gives me somewhere to go back to on a bad day to cheer myself up. Unfortunately, I can't show every page of the sketchbook, since some pages include life drawing from a nude model, but I can do a quick flip through of the last few pages. You can see I still make mistakes, but I'm much more confident with facial feature placement and the overall shapes. I'm using the same pen and the Gellyroll white pen, but different Tombow dual brushes for the underdrawing. I try to draw a variety of ages, genders, and ethnicities to broaden the visual library in my head of the human face. I won't be able to link all of the references I use this time, but they all come from Pexels, like the rest of the photo references in my Draw With Me series. And here we are, back to the final side of the final page. It feels good to close this sketchbook and mark it off as finished. I hope this was a fun behind-the-scenes look at my sketching process and progress as an artist these past 8 years. Thanks for watching. I hope you created something that brought you joy this week, and I'll see you Friday for another Draw With Me. Bye!